Welcome to the Occupational Safety Leadership Podcast, episode number 150. In today's episode, we will sit down and talk about safety metrics. And is it better to have corporate driven or site specific metrics? Let's just dive right in. So, we've talked about how safety metrics have to provide value and help the organization measure safety performance. And let's just kind of talk a little bit about how they can be either corporate driven, known as a top down, or they can be site specific. So when we think about a corporate driven metric, it's very easy to go back and say, I've decided that all 15 sites have exactly the same metric out there. And if you have 15 sites doing exactly the same thing, and it's the same footprint, and it's the same setup with machinery, that might be an awesome way to go. Because then you saved a lot of time and effort by just this is what we're doing because it adds value and it works for everybody, of course. Let's look at site specific ones out there. It's a little harder to manage, but it allows for the unique site to sit down and say, but this is what's important for my site right here. And I think that's really the way to go. There's not going to be a 100%, it's always best to do corporate or it's always best to do site specific, but think about how different all the sites are out there between footprint, the number of people, literally it would be very hard, I think, just to come up with one that really works for everybody. You can come up with corporate driven ones that maybe add value at certain sites and maybe don't add value at other sites then. But a site specific one, it also helps the folks who are locally. Anytime you can own whatever the metric, the goal, the program, you're going to have a lot more buy-in out there then too. So when you have the local folks coming up with a goal, they're going to have a lot more buy-in. They're going to be a lot more into it, of course, than somebody who comes down from the corporate headquarters wearing a suit and says, "I've decided everybody can do this year." Um, One of the times I was very young safety professional back in either the late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around in there, um, a, um, a edict was put out that this year the goal is we're going to reduce our accidents and injuries by 5%. And that was across the board, and it was 35 sites, whatever, 5%. I sat down, and I thought about that, and I was like, that's awesome and that's great, but how do I like actually be part of this? No matter how safe I make my place, no matter how many programs I put in place, I'm only one of 35, and we haven't even looked at what was a priority. We just said we're just going to do this, and that was it then. So the goal did not succeed, you know. Um, and that's one that just really kind of stands out to me that when I have had goals forced on me, some of them have been really good, of course, too, at the same time. So I can't say that they haven't been good, but I had a lot more buy-in when it was me and the local folks coming up with it. Just like if you have your everyday folks come up with the metrics, they're a lot more into it than you, the safety person, who says, I've decided we will do this for this plant right here. So that's it for today's episode. Nice, short, and sweet episode number 150. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me today and for sitting down, listening to these podcasts, hoping to share the word. I hate to sound as if I'm old, but I'm trying to do everything I can to share some lessons learned, most of them the hard way, that we can really get out and look at. I want everybody following in like the next, let's call it 30, 50 years, whatever time frame that we want to. We've made fantastic progress from the start of OSHA until now. We talked about systems and metrics, all that good stuff. let's crank it up. Let's do an even better job by getting out, listening to those lessons learned, sharing great things because we all do great things, and making the workplace a lot safer out there. So thank you for joining me today. My name is Dr. David Ayers. Thank you and have a safe day.